Hey, it's Benji Cole, son of Al Cole from CBS Radio and host of People of Distinction, the talk that gives an in-depth view of some of the most dynamic, intelligent, and successful people on the planet. Run to our website, peopleofdistinction.org for more info, or you can always email me directly at benji@alcoleenterprises.com. And on the line with us today, we have Charles R. Abbott. And we're going to be discussing his amazing book, Patches and Leif. Now, it's available for purchase through Amazon as well as barnesandnoble.com. And before we go any further, I do want to quickly point out that Charles was brought to our network, People of Distinction, today by one of the best publishers in the business, Author Reputation Press. So listen, if you're a writer out there or you know someone that is, and you have a book that you've created that you need help moving, I'm going to give you some fantastic advice. Contact ARP. They're one of the best in the business to do it, and they specialize in taking your literary creation to the next level. Head on over to authorreputationpress.com today and gather all the ways that they can help you. And listen, it is an absolute pleasure, a true delight to have Charles here on the line. I'm telling you, people, this is a children's narrative, but there's layers to this, and there's so much to be gained. And I'm really looking forward to this. I know you are as well. And see past the fact that it's a children's narrative, because I'm telling you, once you do, you're going to see that there is so much to be gained. And my adults out there are going to be able to benefit from it as well. But don't take my word for it. Okay, take Charles's, because he's the expert. He's written the book. He's done the research. He has a fantastic origin story to back it. And you're going to want to run to his Amazon and Barnes & Noble pages and purchase your copies, because by the time we're done here today, you're going to understand what I'm talking about. And you're going to see why it's so valuable. Charles, first and foremost, man, welcome to People of Distinction, and thank you very much for being a guest. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you doing today?
I'm fantastic, Charles. Better than I deserve. Thank you very much for asking. We're really looking forward to this, Charles. Listen, I meant what I said in my opening, man. I think what you're embarking upon here is special. And I'm utilizing it for all facets and all ages, because I think it applies, right? And I think that there's so much going on here that you really need to be commended for, and really what you've embarked upon. And I know we have a lot of information to cover pertaining to those words that are on those pages. Before we jump into that, though, I think it's important to learn a little bit more about your background. So please, tell us a little bit more about yourself.
I've been a nurse for about 30 years. And like I was sharing earlier, when I first started in my nursing career, I had to take a fundamental beginning English class before I would even be considered. And this is where the educational piece came in for the book, is it took that instructor to teach me how to actually express what I'm feeling and putting that on paper. And so that's what gave me the foundation to write this book. And then there was just different motivations. Shared with you earlier, just based on some fall and Halloween decorations, a leaf just gets caught in the yarn hair of a scarecrow in my front yard. The wind's kind of moving them around, and my creative, child inside me saw that that leaf was possibly telling or communicating with that scarecrow, and it just went from there.
I love that. No, let's quickly talk about that background and that inspiration, okay? Because there's something there that I'm loving, okay? Now, I'm trying to connect the dots, and rather than assume, Charles, because you know what happens when you assume, right? So I'm not going to do that to you. You're talking about how this book really was birthed out of almost a project, right, that one of your former professors had you do to really improve writing skills in your nursing program. Well, when it comes to creative writing, this started off as maybe a homework assignment or a project, but then it developed into so much more. Talk to us about that love for creative writing and really what inspired you to embark upon this journey.
As I started writing it, that's just where the learning part comes in and the inspiration comes in, because I didn't even know that I even had that in me. That was nothing that I even really considered at that point that I would even have dwelling inside myself. And as I started to write it, I started to feel it. I started to see it. And then that's when I'm like, I really feel like I need to share this. There were some people that would probably really like to see and hear the things and how to build maybe those friendships or how to go on those adventures or, how to just open yourself up to allow yourself to feel those things. Mm-hmm. So that's where it all came from. And like I said, once I started writing, it just started pouring out. And it was, if I say so myself, I was very impressed by how that all came together and it all made sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, without further ado, let's go into more of the narrative itself. Patches and Leif. Tell us a little bit more about your book.
The storyline is that in these two books, you get to learn who Patches is and how he came to be, and who Leif is and how he came to be, and then how their paths crossed. Two unlikely characters, actually their paths crossed, and they sprung up this awesome friendship and this beautiful way to communicate and how to share the world with one another. And that's kind of the spirit of myself is I've never met a stranger. So I like to not only share what I have, but to hear what they have as well. And that's what it is with Patches and Leif. Patches he's a permanent figure in the farmer's cornfield. He makes some friends there, a spider and a butterfly, Cookie and Sophia. And so he's got some, people that are more permanent in his life, but Leif has the ability to travel the wind. And wherever that wind carries him, and he learns about that, another wind will take him back to the farm, and he'll share all his adventures and stories with Patches. And it's my hope that as that information is being exchanged, or they're telling each of those stories, that those reading the book will also be able to maybe visualize or share in those stories, or maybe it's something they've seen or felt, or maybe it's going to spark something new in them,
As I've mentioned a number of times, I think that this book surpasses any particular age group, right? I think that there are values and lessons taught within the book that can be applied to all ages. Now, that's just me and my perception. I didn't create the book, right? So let's directly hear it from you. Two-part question here with this next one. And I know that the second part we've already started to go into, but I do think that it's worth doubling down on and repeating. So first and foremost, who would you say is your intended audience with this book? And B, to re-impress it again, what are the main messages that you really hope your readers take from it?
I guess like we're talking about, and I agree, that the book can be read to those that haven't really obtain the ability to read, once again sparking that something inside them, on what that might be like to take those adventures, to the smaller children that are beginning to read and getting an understanding, because it will be some education on how to say your ABCs, how to count to 1 to 10, maybe what a classroom looks like, a little more about maybe what it looks like from that perspective as you drive through the country and you see a scarecrow sitting in there, oh my God, maybe that's Patches over there, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I will share the story that one of my coworkers that had came to a book signing, he had read the book after I had signed it. And he later told me that he identified as Patches because that's what he identifies for himself as. He likes to stay kind of in his space, but he likes for people to come into that space to share their life and story, so he could identify with the character of Patches. And I found that really refreshing because, once again, opening yourself up and listening to other people like Patches and Leif are doing, we learn more and we understand people, and we cut down on those assumptions on who that person is or what they're feeling or what they're thinking. Wow. So, and I like the fact that you're building that for, up to where adults can read that and they can feel, okay, it's not just a children's book. I can read this and, maybe this will spark a camping trip, or this will spark, a decoration, or whatever the case may be, or just for them to, for just that few minutes while they're reading the book, they just get to escape for a minute. So that's kind of
Charles,
what I'm thinking with the book.
absolutely. Listen, man, I love what you just said. And people, this plays into what I've been saying in terms of it surpassing the borders of a particular age group. Because listen, it can get deep. It can get philosophical if you read in between the lines and you find it that way, right? When we're talking about the symbolism of, now, correct me if I'm wrong, Charles, but Patches is the scarecrow, yes?
Yes.
So we're talking about this individual character who is a scarecrow in the book. But this other individual, who is an adult coworker of Charles's, saying that he identifies with the scarecrow. Again, when we think about the scarecrow, someone that is, again, a model that is stagnant, that is in that one place. And this person saying that he connects with that character because he doesn't like to get outside of his comfort zone, outside of his box, but he allows other people, in this instance, ergo Leif, to come in and share their stories. Like, people, my mind is just going, right? And I love what this could symbolize for you. And here is the great part and this is what I love about art, right? Now we're going down the rabbit hole and you just got to entertain me here, people. But this is what I love about art. Art is open to interpretation. So depending on who you are, your particular circumstances, and where you are in life, you're going to identify with these characters in a different way. And that's okay. That is totally fine. And it's wonderful. It should be celebrated and appreciated. And that's a mark of a good writer. To be able to formulate that bridge with his audience and allow different readers to travel on different paths with regards to his creation. I'm telling you, could we have selected a more perfect embodiment of a person of distinction to be on our network? This is fantastic stuff. Amazon and Barnes & Noble are where you have to go. Patches and Leif is the title you have to pick up. Remember, it's 2 stories in one, and that's not all, okay? The best part is there's another book on the horizon, okay? So you're going to want to start with this one. Again, make sure you get the most current edition, Patches and Leif, Amazon, Barnes & Noble. But there also is a Patches and Leif Volume 3 that's still in creation. You can't pick it up just yet, but make sure you check back in frequently because this is something you're going to want to get your hands on as well, okay? And continue along that journey for everybody out there, my parents, the children, everyone, okay? Now, I want to quickly go into that and give a brief description. Charles, please talk to us about Patches and Leif Volume 3 and tell us a little bit more about what that one entails.
Well, on Volume 3, when I was doing the initial research and figuring out how to put this into print and those kind of things, it was shared with me that maybe there wasn't a lot of information about Valentine's Day. So to keep it kind of light, but once again informative on what it's going to look like when Leif goes into a town and he sees the hustle and bustle of Valentine's Day, and then as the wind carries him out into the forest, his friends from the forest, the raccoons, the squirrels, the birds, are sharing what they had, the information they had as far as the love and the concern and the family holiday for Valentine's Day. So kind of that educational, but also that whimsical view of Valentine's Day is pretty much the essence of this third book.
There you have it. Listen, in a different life, Charles was an educator. I can see it because these books carry that educational component, right? This is fantastic stuff. Charles, as we start to close out here, man, I love having this platform. As I mentioned to my listening audience on a number of other occasions, I'm an artist myself. Now, I'm a filmmaker, so I'm in a different medium, but I do love having this platform as a way of paying it forward to other artists out there listening in. Now, in this instance, for other writers, and you are someone that has been through the process, whether this was something that you wanted to do growing up or something that started off as a project, as you stated, you are a bona fide author now. You've written your narrative, you've gotten it published, you have another one on the horizon. For any new writers out there listening in, what are some words of wisdom that you could potentially offer them about the journey they're getting ready to take?
the biggest thing is I say share with what you're creating. Share that and get that feedback, because sometimes we don't always see the potential in what we're doing, and we can be, and I hate to say this, but our own worst critics. And so share that with people that maybe you trust, or maybe somebody that, you know, you just met and maybe have that conversation. But then as you go through the process, as you pick a publishing company, have those conversations about what your thoughts are and what your impression or what your feelings or what your end goal maybe is, what you're trying to communicate, and see if you and that person are on the same page. Because as you go through that process, like talking with you, Benny, it's so nice and refreshing to hear the excitement in your voice, you know, about the book. So that comes across and speaks volumes to me about that. There is something to be seen and something to be read and something to be beholden, you know, to this book and to future endeavors. So, you know, and I appreciate the fact that that's a motivation for me to hear that excitement in your voice, and I sure appreciate that. Thank you.
Absolutely. Listen, Charles, you're speaking to the child in me, right? And because I'm a filmmaker and an actor, you know, that child lives. Yeah, he's there, okay? And I live in my imagination, so this is something right up my alley. But I can see what this book can mean to so many different people. So again, as I mentioned to you before, I'm going to say it to you again, I think what you're doing here is special. And I think a lot of people are going to be able to benefit from this. And people, just to get back to what he was saying, and it was advice, of course, for writers. My artists out there, you all know this, and you can second this notion. What he's talking about is constructive criticism. Constructive criticism is so valuable to any artist. I don't care what medium you're in, because here's the thing. You're not creating your art for yourself. You're creating your art for others around you. Now, yes, it's very important, as he stated, to release it to someone that you trust when it's in those earlier stages. Because as artists, you know, our art that we create are our children, right? I mean, we've given birth to it. So we can tend to be very sensitive about it, especially if it's an unfinished product. But making sure that you're releasing it to someone that you trust, someone that you know has your best intentions, can really help your art grow and thrive. Because constructive criticism, and I highly, highly want to emphasize the word constructive, because a lot of times, listen, there's too much criticism in the world, and criticism doesn't help anybody. Constructive criticism is valuable because it can really help that seed just grow and thrive. And I love the fact that he took it there. And listen, it was for artists, it was for writers, but that notion can be applied to anyone in any background. People, listen, this is something special. I've said so much. I can continue to go, and I have to keep reminding myself, like, Benji, this is not about you. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put the onus on you now. Okay, we've discussed it. Patches and Leif is the title you have to pick up. Patches and Leif Volume 3 is the title you're going to have to pick up in the future because it's still in creation. Amazon and Barnes & Noble are where you have to go. And Charles R. Abbott is the author you have to thank for bringing these fantastic books to your table. Head on over there, get lost in those books, and just, take that journey. Get out of your comfort zone. Learn something, take chances, embark upon the friends that you have around you. This is something special. Charles, this has been a true pleasure, man, an absolute delight. Thank you very much for being a guest on People of Distinction.
Thank you, and thank you for taking time to do that, and it was wonderful. Thank you.